Hey, what's up, guys? So today I want to talk about chapter 19 in Genesis. So I'm just going to hop into it. This story is about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. I feel like this story in itself keeps bringing up the concept of you leaving the old version of yourself behind. In the Old Testament, at least up until this point, from what I understand and from what I interpret for myself, I really believe that they are just talking about transformation, transmutation, and just be like literally becoming the phoenix, embodying the concept of the phoenix time and time and time again, whether it's through the main characters like Cain and Abel, that then goes to Noah, that then goes to Abraham, to then whoever next, I think it's Jacob, or the Isaac and then Jacob, whatever, you know what I'm saying. I believe that each of those Christ consciousness figures are just reincarnations of the previous person before, who has a higher level capacity of understanding the difference between the ego and temptation by like dwelling in your 3D reality and getting closer to embodying Christ consciousness, because ultimately this lineage of people will then birth Jesus, and Jesus is the master who obtains Christ consciousness and performs miracles on earth. In my opinion, I also believe miracles are just another way to say manifestation, or having your prayers be answered. In my opinion, a lot of people don't have their prayers answered because they do not live in the wish fulfilled. They just are so desperate to have whatever it is they're praying for that they only put out lack, and that's why they get lack back. That's why they have no outcome presented to them that's a wish fulfilled concept, because all they think about is, I don't have what it is that I'm asking for. But when you really understand the power of I am and living in the wish fulfilled, you know that you have to, I guess, outsmart reality, and you have to think beyond it and live in the future, even though the future doesn't exist. You have to become the version of yourself in your imagination and in your inner world to then have it be played out in your outer world. So I'm going to start again, like I had said, this story, in my opinion, is significantly about leaving the old version of you behind. So we're going to begin, and I'm going to start with verse 1. It says, "And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground." Here, there's a lot of symbolism going on. Two angels are visiting Lot, and prior to this, they were visiting Abraham. So first they came to Abraham, and now they're coming to Lot. Abraham in this story, in my opinion, is the main person who's trying to transcend. He's like the main character, the main archetype of this. But Lot is an aspect of Abraham as well, right? I believe he's his nephew or something. I'm pretty sure he's his nephew. But in my opinion, when you have a main character and then you have different subsects of that character, like in relation, so like let's say a wife, a son, a daughter, whatever it might be, each of those parts of each of those relationships to the main person represents an aspect of that main person. So from what I understand, I watch Bill Donahue, and he believes that the when a woman is referred to a wife, that means whoever's husband that wife is his emotions. So whatever the wife is doing in that moment mirrors what that man's emotions are, if that makes sense. So that's just me breaking down different kinds of, I guess, relational aspects of these characters and what they mean in symbolism. So the fact that Abraham was visited by angels first means that this Abraham is the main figure. He got divine insight, which means the divine insight trickles down into another aspect of himself, which is his nephew Lot. And Lot, being a man, is symbolic of the masculine principle. And Lot could be seen as maybe like a sub-branch of his thoughts, another aspect of his masculine identity, the physical realm, the way he thinks, different things like that, the ego's control, the ego's power. Like, just because you are like your person when you exist, meaning like I'm myself right now, right, and I'm thinking about this stuff, doesn't mean I don't have thoughts about literally everything else that ever existed ever in my life. I have other interests, I have other things that get my attention, and each of those things that get my attention can represent a nephew like Lot, or a daughter like Lot's daughters, right? So again, I'm just explaining like the relational aspect of each of the characters in the Bible to the main character just represents aspects of the main character. So I believe these two angels visiting Lot our trickle-down effect of Abraham receiving consciousness and now Lot being able to receive consciousness, because once you penetrate and allow for, I guess, intuition or divination to be received within your awareness, then it's really hard for the rest of you to not receive it as well, I guess is what I want to say. So I'll start with verse 1, and it says, "And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground." I know I already read this line. Oh my God. It's so funny when I just read and I just I forget exactly what I'm saying. But thank you for bearing with me. So here when when the angels visit Lot in Sodom and Eden, Lot is sitting in a gate. And when you're sitting in a gate or in a doorway, in my opinion, that means you're in between two phases of existence, right? When you're in your house and you're in the doorway to go outside or come back in, that means you have a choice. You can go outside and see the light and be invited to a whole different world, or you can be invited to go back within and be invited to that world, right? The doorway is your option. You have the free will to go there. Right now, Lot is in his doorway. And when you're in the doorway of your awareness, by transitioning from having conscious thought to using your mind, to being very aware of what you're thinking, to removing the choice of you thinking and then going into meditation, which translates into the concept of receiving thoughts, right? Your ego is not participating in this moment. What you're doing is you're removing your thoughts and your judgments about life, and you're allowing divine intuitive thoughts come to you. That when you make that decision, when you're in that realm, that is when you're in the doorway. And when you are in the doorway and you choose to have divine thoughts come to you, that is when you're visited by two angels at the gate. All right, that's the way that I understand it. When Lot sees that two angels are coming to him, it says that he rose up to meet them and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. Here, this is essentially you meeting your intuition, your divination, or answering the channeled thoughts that you're receiving without judgment, okay? The reason why I say without judgment is because he's not using his face to greet the angels. When you use your face in the physical realm, that is the most identifiable feature about your existence, right? My face, you'd be like, this is Michelle, right? If you take my face away, who am I? So when you take the face away of somebody, it takes away what they physically represent, and all you're left with is what they feel like. And I'm pretty sure, I believe, I always mess it up. It's either in Islam or I believe it's in Islam. That's the religion, because the people who are Muslim are practice Islam. But they have Muhammad, I believe, right? And Muhammad has a smeared face. You can never see him. And that's because he's also symbolic of a Christ figure. He allegedly came down as a physical person, but does not see life with his face at face value. Face value means you identify with the physical realm, and as soon as you identify by the physical realm, that means you think you're bound by it. Because when you obsess over your body and you prioritize it and make it think that this is the only existence that you have, that's when you're disconnected from your spirit. So when you sacrifice saying hello to somebody with your face, it means you see them, or they say see you by the way that you feel. And the way that you feel and the way that you express yourself when you are disassociated with your face is with your spirit. And when you're genuinely in your spirit, that means you are being greeted by authenticity, right? The angels are essentially meeting themselves as a mirror, because you can only commune with God when you're in your spirit, right? And your spirit is a fraction of God. So this is essentially just a really cool, fun, pretty way to say when you meditate, you will be met by divination. And that's pretty much it. At least this is one way to perceive it, okay? Then we have verse 2. And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. Here, Lot is asking the angels to go within his house. And the reason why Lot is asking them to go within his house is because you can see this as a literal way of respecting people. But when you say house, biblically speaking, and in a mystic way, it means going within yourself. This is the real only house you'll ever live in, right? You can live in a different place physically, in a different shelter physically, but it doesn't mean it changes who you are, right? Maybe it changes the way you behave and the way you act, in the sense of now you're in a new place, so you form new behaviors, but essentially who you are is always in here. It's not identifiable by the things you have, because as soon as you're gone and someone walks into your home and has no concept of who you were in the past, they're just going to say, hey, this looks like a house. This is, I don't know who it belonged to, but it's just a home, right? But if they understood you, I guess in context with the house, they'd understand it, because your energy is what created the presence of it, if that makes sense. That's a little bit more of a stretch. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But what I want to say is the house represents your body. You get what I'm saying. I can live in California, I can go to Texas, I can go to Florida, but the houses do not dictate my inner world, essentially. those places will just be where I am physically, but where I am in an authentic way to understand it is always where I am in here, right? If I change my concept of self, that will be the new place that I am, and that only happens in my home, in my body. So Lot is saying, please, angels, come into my house. When you tarry all night, it means you're like putzing around all night. You're doing, like, you're taking your time. You're doing whatever it is you want all night, and wash your feet. When you're tarrying all night, when you look at it in a conscious lens, night means your subconscious, because those are your dormant thoughts, the things that you don't really see at a conscious value. Consciousness equates to daytime, right? So that's how you can see it in allegory in the Bible. When it's daytime, you're aware, you see with your two eyes, that's when light is coming in, and now you see your 3D realm. When you're tarrying all night, it means you're not looking with your two eyes, you're going within and you're seeing what's in your subconscious programming. So here Lot is saying, I want to invite you into my house, and I want you to tarry all night, meaning I want you to go in my subconscious and give light to it. I want you to take out all the things that don't serve me anymore, because understand, he is in Sodom and Gomorrah. This guy does not want to be there anymore. He's irked out by it. And even though throughout this chapter he struggles to leave, he really wants to. It's just that he doesn't leave so easily, because he identifies as this place. And I'll get into it a little bit more later, but that's similar to you and I when we're asked to change, and we're asked to change from a place where, you know, we become this certain person. Maybe we have a certain addiction or something, and we think it becomes our personality because it's familiar to us, it's comfortable. You don't want to leave that. That is Sodom and Gomorrah. When you identify as something that's corrupt, broken, and wicked, but because it's familiar, because it's normal, it's hard for you to change, right? And because it also gives you short-term gratification. Any kind of addiction will give you a dopamine hit, and it will distract you from what your pain actually is, because the more you do the addiction, the more you get the dopamine, the more you're stimulated, and the more you repeat that cycle. When you finally break free of that and you don't have the rush of dopamine, that's when your demons flooded and you're facing them, and that's exactly why Lot does not want to leave. He is scared to face those demons immediately. It's too much of a rush and it's too much of a push. But here he's asking the angels, help me, come in my house, do the work with me. I'm so ready. I'm terrified, but I'm ready. When it says wash your feet, washing feet, in my opinion, means you're washing yourself of relating to the physical world. Your feet bind you to the physical plane, right? So you can look at that as like roots in a tree. If you wash, I guess, the roots of a tree or something like that, you're purifying them. So when you're washing feet, it's symbolic of washing yourself being connected to the physical world. That's also why the disciples have their feet washed by Jesus, and Jesus has to do the feet washing during the Last Supper because he's the one who's aware. He's the one that's born pure. Of course he has to wash the feet. He's literally baptism incarnate. The disciples are disciples for a reason. They're not apostles immediately. They're disciples because they have to discipline themselves to be like Jesus. They have to earn to be like Jesus. They have to learn to be like him. And the fact that Jesus is purifying the disciples for the Last Supper is exactly why they become apostles later on. They finally lock in, they finally understand it, and then they become teachers of the word, but they had to earn it. So washing feet is symbolic of washing the angels who incarnated themselves as man on earth to visit Lot. Lot just wants to humble or show his humbling by washing their feet, saying like, I'm ready to purify myself, yourself, whatever it is, just to show you this action. I'm ready to remove my connection to the physical plane, because I know I'm only going to be here for such a short while, and it's not my true identity, right? And then it says, and ye shall rise up early, meaning the angels will rise up early. Notice how he said before, tarry all night. When you tarry all night, that's the subconscious. When you rise up early, that means, boom, you did all the inner programming, you did all the decluttering. When you rise up early, now you're conscious of what's going on. After you did the reprogramming, now you have a new awareness. It's a rebirth. And then the next line immediately says, and go on your ways, meaning you did the inner work. See you later. Thank you. And then it says, and they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. Here, the angels really want to see how serious Lot is. It's kind of the concept of, what's it called? All talk, but no, what's that thing? All talk, but no game, or like no show. Basically, like, words are cheap. Action is strong. So the angels are just like, no, no, we're going to be in the street all night. We don't want to just be in your house. Literally speaking, you'd be like, why? You know, like, why do you want to be in the street? Sodom and Gomorrah, the place sounds like, you know, New York in the 80s. It's not the best place to be. But what it means in allegory or symbolism is, in my opinion, is the idea of these streets, these wicked streets that are dark and corrupt and filled with grimy, sick men that represent the most lower nature behaviors you could possibly imagine a man having, or not just man, but like any person, you know, human. The angels are like, no, we'll be out here instead. And what that is symbolic, in my opinion, of is we don't want to just be in your house. We want to be in the darkest place in which you dwell. Meaning, we want to see even the worst parts of you you don't even know exist. And then Lot says in verse 3, and he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. So the fact that Lot was like, you can be in the streets, but like the streets are just going to be reflective of what's in me. I want you here. I know what I'm signing up for. Come in my house. Let me transcend. Come in my mind. So then the angels did go in because they understood he wasn't, you know, what's it called? He wasn't bluffing. And you can't half-ass meditation, right? When you're in meditation, you're either in it or you're not. If you're like, oh, I think I feel something, you're in your mind and you have to cut your losses because you're not meditating, you're thinking. Meditation is strictly not participating in your judgment. You can't have one or the other. I mean, maybe there's like the purgatory period of like you like making the connection, but for you to solidly be in meditation means you're taking no thought, right? And when you take no thought, that's when angels visit you. But when you take thought, I mean, that's when your demons are running wild. And it's like, I'm not saying that like I don't have that. Like I'm a human too. So hey, we're all victim to it, you know? But the idea of like, and he made them a feast. To me, what that is symbolic of is just being very hospitable. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to offer this for you, nourishment, right? And did bake unleavened bread. This goes to the concept of matzah. And matzah in Judaism, from what I get, is always eaten maybe like around Passover or something, whatever their holidays. And it's like, from what I get, Christianity and Catholicism came from Judaism, or like Jewish mysticism, right? And, you know, don't shoot me if that's wrong, but you know, every religion came from some foundation of mystic truth somewhere, right? And then everyone else took it apart, and now we have wars because one God's better than the other or whatever. But essentially what I wanted just to point out is that the concept of unleavened bread is translated, right? It's in Judaism and it's in the Bible here. And it's like, well, why? In my opinion, when you have unleavened bread, there's, I guess, maybe two different ways to look at it. Unleavened bread does not spoil. And the reason why is because it doesn't have yeast. When you have yeast in bread, that means it rises. And when it rises, it's very puffy. And when you look at yourself, when you have a giant ego and you have so much pride, what happens? You puff out your chest like leavened bread that has yeast in it, and your head is big, right? People say that. That's why it's a term. Oh, look at this guy with such a big head, you know? And it's like, not because, you know, he's Eastern European like myself. Fucking, I have to wear men's hats all the time because I have a giant head. But it's because it probably stems from this kind of concept. When you feel really big and boastful and proud in yourself, you're very puffed up. And when you take away the puff, when you take away the yeast, you're very pure. And that's what matzah is. There is no yeast to putrefy it, because keep in mind, also yeast has the bacteria in which will make it spoil very much sooner. And the idea of when you have yeast in you, right, when you have ego in you, you also spoil sooner, right? You also are not desirable very soon, or sooner compared to those that don't have the pride that you have in that moment, right? Like nobody wants to be around some egomaniac all the time, unless you're on that level and then you just compete for whatever reason. But it's exhausting and it's very annoying. So having unleavened bread is symbolic of you not having pride, and bread is symbolic of the body, right? Because when you receive the Eucharist and the communion, bread is symbolic of, or what's it called? The communion is symbolic of the bread, the body, and the wine, that whole shebang. So when you have unleavened bread, it means you have an unprideful body. You're not a narcissist to the physical realm. You don't let it consume you. You just participate in consuming it, right? If participating in the physical world was a bad thing, we wouldn't be human. That wouldn't make any sense. We were made in God's image, and God said, come to earth. So we said, okie dokie. It's not like being a human is bad. You are not born a sinner. All sin means is missing the mark or dwelling in your emotions. And that came from the Greek word harmatia. So if we understand that, if we understand that all sin means was like, hey, you didn't focus in enough on what your intention was that you wanted to create in this world, that's sin. Sorry, you missed the mark. But the next time around, you're going to manifest correctly because you understand how the universe works. It works on the way you judge yourself and others and reality. So just to like, I guess, bring this up, I believe that the universe is a simulation based on your thoughts and your emotions. And when you master the different aspects of yourself that create your mind, which I guess could be understood as the archetypes that create the zodiac, right? So like the first archetype is Aries, and Aries embodies the concept of I am, and that's what God said to Moses when Moses was like, who are you? When you master I am, you are God. You are being God. Then the other archetypes follow as well, and I really don't know what all of them mean, but I hope you know what I'm trying to say here. It's like, God, because I don't even know, I just went on a tangent there. Just going back to the concept of a simulation, when you master your reality, you're not consumed by it, right? It's not like this boastful thing that you're like, oh my God, I need to have more, because if I don't have more, then that means I'll eventually have less. And it's like, dude, if you just knew abundance was your birthright, there would be no need for lust, greed, or to cry out for more in this life. It's just when you know you're the creator, you know you have a surplus, because that's what your I am state should be, is I have more than enough. Money's always my birthright. People want to work with me. People love the way I talk. I'm desirable. I'm protected. I'm loved. Those are your I am states that you need to claim, and then that will become your reality, right? You just have to be steadfast in that belief. And the fact that the last line says, and they did eat, means that the angels accepted everything in this line that Lot is offering as truth. And they're like, yes, we will take this and we will consume this as nourishment. If angels take what you have to offer as a human as nourishment, understand that that is an A+ on your exam. Like, you did very good. So Lot is doing very well here. He studied very well. All right, so we have that. Now we have verse 4. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. Verse 5. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them. So here Lot is having a very good time with these angels, and he's like, I'm like doing such a good job showing God I'm signing up for this. And then comes another test, right? Then comes the old version of you being like, oh, you want to commune with divination and angels and you think you're all spiritual because now you're not thinking? Guess what comes back? Verse 4, the men of the city. The men of the city represent the old version of you, because men, biblically speaking, represent the physical plane, the ego, and your cardinal mind. Meanwhile, females in the Bible represent your inner nature, so your divinity, your intuition, your emotions, things of that nature. So the men of the city also in allegory can refer to consciousness. The thoughts within your consciousness, within Sodom, are compassing your house, and both old and young, doesn't matter how early on you adopted these thoughts or how long they've been within you. Every single quarter, every single aspect of your body, of your area, are coming into your awareness and saying, where are the angels that came in this night? Bring them on to us that we may know them. That last line, that we may know them, is not a good line. They want to know them in all the disgusting possible ways possible. Think of like any kind of like torture and brutality and in a physical sexual way, and that's most likely the case here. It's doing it in a way that's humiliating them, all right? So the old version of you, represented by the men of the city, are going to bang on the door that you shut on them and say, hey, listen, I know you want to change. I know you want to transcend and become this different great version of yourself, right? This one that's like kind and close to your authentic nature and like aligned to your purpose. But you want to know what? we want you back. We want you to be suffering. We want you to be addicted to the old version of who you were, because the old version of who you were is so embedded in your psyche that it's very hard to resist when that old version pops up again and say, remember when you did this and you were stimulated by it, and even though it didn't help you in the long run, it was still kind of fun. Do you remember that? That old version of you is the men in the city being like, give us your angels. Essentially meaning, don't transcend, don't change, because change for a programmed version of you is uncomfortable. If you become somebody new, somebody better, you haven't been that version of yourself yet. So what could the outcome be? The mind cannot compute the outcome. That's why it's intimidated by it. The mind loves to know every single possible outcome of your thoughts because it can quantify if your body will be safe in that situation, right? So let's bring up the concept of an abusive relationship. Even though it's not good for you, right? And you've been in this relationship for a long time, the mind knows every single possible outcome of the relationship and the abuse. So it will deem it as safe because it's familiar. And familiar is comfortable, so therefore that option is better to the mind. But when you're an observer and you see that your position no longer serves you when you're in that, that part, that embodiment of yourself, and you're like, I want to change, it's very scary because being safe isn't familiar to you, okay? So when you want to be safe, actually genuinely safe, actually lovingly embraced by someone who sincerely cares about you, that actually feels like a threat. That feels dangerous because it's new and your mind doesn't know the outcome of this, right? So it would rather regress and do something that would destroy itself rather than progress and do something that would protect itself, because it doesn't think it will actually protect itself. You haven't proved that it would yet because you haven't been this version of you yet, if that makes any sense. So the old men here, or not old men, old, young, whoever, are banging down the door, meaning the old versions of you, saying like, come back to the dark side. It's so predictable here. You're gonna love it. And the new version of you, the new Lot, is like, no, I'm not going back. All right, so we have verse 6. And Lot went out at the door onto them and shut the door after him, essentially saying what I just talked about, saying, no, I'm not listening to my tempting thoughts. Get lost. Verse 7, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Here Lot is talking to the old version of himself, being like, leave me alone. I don't want to participate in your wicked baggage. This doesn't serve me anymore. I'm a new person. I'm becoming a new person. Verse 8, behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. So here, Lot, if you take it literally, is saying, listen, if these guys are going to knock down my door and take these angels, that is going to wreck me and my potential to become this new version of myself. So what I will do is act in desperation, because this is all I have. I will give you the most innocent, most vulnerable part of myself, and that is represented by his 2 daughters. Because in mysticism, in my opinion, daughters are symbolic of the spirit. And when you offer somebody your spirit and they're a daughter, right? It's not some grown woman. This is a daughter. This is somebody younger than you, right? This is a generation below you. There's a form of innocence connected to the spirit given that generation gap. So you're giving something very innocent, pure, and holy over to the people outside, right? And you can see this as when you're trying to be yourself in society, and you get so vulnerable because you're being so pure, and the people around you will mock you and say, seriously, this is who you are? Really? You're okay with getting torn apart. You're okay with getting spit on. You're okay with getting persecuted, right? Because I believe in the Bible, I think it was in Matthew, essentially saying this isn't in Matthew, but Jesus is just like, when you walk in faith or walk in the concept of what I'm doing, you'll understand why there's so much persecution, because those that have the truth trigger the dark, essentially. And yeah, that's kind of the case here. So Lot is really triggering the dark here. And he's being so desperate. He's offering the most innocent part of himself, the most vulnerable part of himself to the men outside, being like, I'll show you exactly who I am. I'll be very vulnerable to you. and I'm not going to change because I want to keep this communion with the angels alive. So go ahead, spit on me if you want. Do whatever it is you want to my daughters. It's not literal. These aren't his actual physical daughters. What these are symbolic daughters, right? These are representing innocent aspects of himself that he's willing to give out to the streets, to be like, fine, do what it is you want to me, but I don't care because I'm not sacrificing my communion with the genuine nature of who I am meant to be, which is, again, symbolic of the two angels. Verse 9, and they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow come in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. So here the mob outside is being like, stand the hell back, dude. You better stand back because you came here. You're showing us your most authentic, innocent, vulnerable parts of yourself because you want to commune with your divination and your higher nature self, and you want to show up and do that in our face, right? And you're being a judge about it. You're using your free will to choose the light instead of the dark. We will deal worse with you than we will with God, with the angels. We will destroy you. We will persecute you, right? This lends a hand to the concept of persecution. When people choose their free will to listen to their intuition and understand their God power, they will be persecuted. Why is that? In my opinion, it's very hard to follow your inner nature. It's very hard to follow your authenticity because the world is structured in this construct where they make it very hard for you to break out of, I guess, the matrix, right? They set up this whole concept of working for the economy and for, this is education and this is religion and this is what a family unit looks like and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And we were never really encouraged to think for ourselves. At birth, we go to school and we're taught to raise our hand. We're taught to ask questions only when it's acceptable. And then we become indoctrinated in that concept. And because we've been programmed at a young age, we don't think to question it when we get older. That's why masses are very easy to manipulate later on, because we've been trained like dogs, right? As soon as a whistle blows, we answer, except for those that, wake up sooner and they ask questions and they're like, this isn't right. And when you start saying this isn't right, what's going to happen? The people around you are going to say, stand back. What do you mean? You're crazy. There's no way this is happening in the world. What? You're telling me that everything we've ever been told is a lie? And the people that know the truth, they're not going to say anything, or are they? They're going to say stuff. They're definitely going to say stuff. And if you're the type of person to tell the truth, people are going to say, what, you're judging us? You really think that there's people outside here, making humanity follow this structure so they don't wake up to their true potential as gods on earth? And my answer to that is, yeah, I believe that. So the mob outside, or the people outside in society who don't see the truth like you and myself, they're going to say, we're going to deal worse with you than with God, the actual concept of God, because you're a lunatic on earth spreading hate, spreading illusions, when in reality it's vice versa, right? I believe the 1% is trying to wake up the 90% and 5% are observing, and then the 4% are trying to quiet the 1% or something like that. Like, there's this bizarre quote that says it, but it's very much true. A lot of people are walking sheep, and it's not to be mean, but it's just to say, it's very easy to take the mind and to control it if it's not open to, or if it's scared to question things. And the mind likes comfort, like I mentioned before. That's why Lot has a very hard time leaving the city, because even though something's not good for you, it still feels comfortable, just like society today, just like life has always been. All right, so I'm going to move on. So basically, let me just really reiterate there, because they went off. But here it's essentially saying the men outside, meaning the people in your life or the old version of you, is saying, really, you're going to try to ascend and become better? You're using your free will to judge what it is that you want to do, and we're going to deal worse with you than we will with the actual concept of God, because you're actually doing it. And when you're actually trying to better yourself, that's very triggering to everyone else, because everyone else can't do it. They can do it, but they're either lazy, they don't think highly of themselves, something of that nature. So they become very defensive, they become very angry. So it's basically the outside world will project onto you judgment and hate and call you the judge, when in reality, they're the ones that are judging. All right, verse 10. But the men put forth their hands and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut to the door. So here the angels are representing divine protection. Lot is standing up for himself. He is shown through all of these verses, he is showing up and he's asking the angels to help him. So the angels genuinely are helping them, and the angels are like, hell no, we're closing this door. See you to the mob, see you to the old version of you. We know you want to do the inner work. Verse 11, and they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. So the angels took care of the people outside with their light, and they blinded them. And the people outside fell to their knees, both small and great, and they couldn't find the door. This is essentially either saying that the old version of you is going to be decimated, when you have small parts of you, right, that are part of your personality, and great parts of you, big parts of you that have been your personality for such a long time. All of those concepts of you are going to melt, and they're going to break, because they're going to be blinded by light. They're going to be blinded with new awareness, and when you make this their permanent state, they will never find you at the door. They will never be able to go in and knock in on that theta state that you have in between the idea of conscious awareness and subconscious awareness. Theta is the state of hypnosis, the doorway in which you reprogram yourself. The people outside will never get to that place because you blind them with light and you took care of it, and it's done. Verse 12, and the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place. So here the angels are saying, like, hey, who else do you have in this city? Just gather them up and get out, because this place is going to go down. The angels are essentially telling Lot, you are going to transform. This place represents the old aspect of you, and the characters in which that are your family are just, other archetypes of yourself. They're going to go through transformation because they have to leave too, so get them out. Verse 13, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. So here, this is just a call for purification on God's behalf. He's like, hey, the cry is great here, and we just need to get this party started. We need to, there's like this cool thing that's like, I don't know, it's on Instagram and TikTok, when it's like death to your 20s or whatever, and people who turn 30, and they have like this whole saga of like each year of like who they were at that point in time, and like their friends dress up as like 21, 22, 23, and it's just like a cute thing. So essentially this is like a death to your 20s. It's a death to the old version of you when you turn 30, right? You can look at that as like another symbolic way. So it's purification. Verse 14, and Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. So here in this verse, his sons-in-law, which by the way, he only had up until like verse 9. I think verse 9 had said that his daughters did not know man because he was offering them to the men outside, meaning that they didn't know man because they were pure, okay? They were pure in spirit. So when they're pure in spirit, you're offering something very vulnerable about yourself. It's not actually like offering a virgin or something weird like that. But if you take it literally, and then you go back to this verse, and now all of a sudden they have sons-in-laws, it's like, when did they get married? Like, I thought this city was on fire. Like, how did they get the wedding invitations out so suddenly? So it's like, when did this happen? It's just as like a side note, it's things like this that are meant to get our attention, I believe, because it makes you think, well, this can't be literal, because what the heck is that? How did that even happen so quickly? Like, what does that actually mean, if anything? So the sons-in-laws don't believe Lot when Lot says, hey, the city's going to burn down. And you can look at this as a part of you that's not ready to transform. Sons-in-laws are a degree separated from your actual blood. So this could be seen as a part of you that's not so intimate. It could be a detached part of you. So like, let's say you have an eating disorder, right? and like that used to be a really big part of who you are. And then maybe there was like a part of you that was really easy to get rid of. Like you had this, I don't know, weird tick that you had to like turn off all the knobs in your house or something before you went out, like a weird OCD thing based on fear. Maybe that that part of you, that knob thing isn't really fully taken care of yet. You haven't really like dissolved the fear of your house not burning down every 5 seconds you leave, but you've completely disassociated from your eating disorder. That's what this is kind of like. It's like you got rid of a really big raw part of yourself that no longer serves you, but you still have that part of you that's like not ready to change. And that could be seen as a son-in-law, because again, there's a degree of difference. At least that's the way I understand it. It doesn't mean it's the way to understand it. But essentially there is disbelief. So I do think the undertones are a part of you isn't ready to change. Verse 15, and when the morning arose, then the angel hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. So here, it was nighttime beforehand, and out of nowhere now the morning arose. So when you look at that, you can look at the previous verses as subconscious rewiring, because again, the subconscious is associated to nighttime, which is associated to darkness, right? You remove a lot of your baggage when you face your darkness head on. Now it's light time. This is a new awareness, a new beginning of consciousness. The angels come back and say, hey buddy, take your wife. Wife means emotions, okay? And your 2 daughters. Your 2 daughters represent the higher and the lower nature of your spirit, right? So the angels are saying, take your emotions, take your spirit, and get the heck out of here, because it's about to go down. All right, verse 16, and while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. So here it means that Lot is kind of lingering. He doesn't want to leave the situation of Sodom and Gomorrah behind, but it does show that the men held his hand, meaning the angels are there to divinely support you even when you're not ready to be guided. You're being gently guided. We know it's hard for you to leave this version of yourself behind, but you gotta go. And we know you're unsure and afraid, but you gotta go. We get that you're scared, but you gotta go. So do it, okay? So then we have verse 17, and it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. So here, it's like, essentially verse 16 is Lot stalling, and then in verse 17, the angels are like, okay, you need to escape, because again, this whole thing is going to go down. It's going to burn down. Go to the mountain. When you go to the mountain, you can understand that as a point of elevation. And when you look at your body, the highest point of elevation is your head. And what's in your head is very important. You have your crown chakra, you have your pineal gland, you have your brain, your connection to imagination. And it's also not a coincidence when you say the Our Father prayer, you say, in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. The Father is your pineal gland, your connection to source. Your Son is your heart, your expression, because whatever you express is what you will experience back to you. The Holy Spirit is remembrance. So when you understand, when you remember the connection between your, when you remember the connection to the Father, that you are the Father essentially up here, and your expression is the Son here. You are the Father. You are God. You are Christ consciousness. You are also Jesus. Jesus is an allegory for you waking up to Christ consciousness, right? When you understand that you have the power of creation within you, and I'm not just BSing, I'm not fluffing, I'm talking about making the life the way it is you want to have it be made, right? The reason why you love things in your life is not because you chose them. You were born out of the womb either gravitating to basketball, you like drawing, you couldn't stop talking, you were bashful, you could sing, and it's not a coincidence why you had those things. Did you choose those things? Do you remember choosing those things? I don't remember picking up a pencil and wanting to draw. I don't remember singing to myself and thinking, oh, I have to try to sing. It just happens, right? I just have a voice. I just like to draw. It's just fun. It's expressive. It feels real. It feels raw. It feels authentic, right? And that goes for anybody who loves anything. The things you love choose you, because the things that chose you was God. God chose to express as that thing that you love to do, because you were meant to be that thing here on earth. You weren't meant to hide it. You were meant to be it. You were meant to express it. So essentially Lot is being encouraged and is like, be authentic. Leave the crap and the BS and the baggage behind. You are so much better than this. We know you're better than this. Go to the mountaintop, connect to your Father, go in secret, close the door, ask what you're meant for, and then you will be led to your purpose. Then you will be led to authentic expression. All right, we have verse 18. Escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou come thither. Therefore, the name of the place was called Zor. The name Zor means little. And when they say the thither, it means there. I had like such a lisp. I was like, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you escape there. Therefore, the name of the place is Zor. Basically, the angels are saying, you need to take the first step. We cannot do anything for you. We cannot force you to move. That is what free will is for. But you understand, you asked us to come in your house in the first place in the beginning of this chapter. You made us unleavened bread. You shut the door multiple times on the mob outside. You need to do this. We know you can do this because you had done so many things before that prove that you can. When you go to the place called Zor, it means you're taking a little step. Zor spiritually means, or sorry, symbolically means, or esoteric, mystic, whatever, means little. And I think there's the term, when you have the faith of a mustard seed, you could do like something significant or whatever. Essentially, something little turns into something big. Never think something little will not amount to something massive, gigantic, huge, and important, because it is. So Lot here is essentially asking for a baby step. He's like, please just, I know I meant to change. I know I meant to transcend, but like, dude, have mercy on me. Push me only yay so much, like the teeniest amount, because this is brutal. And I can relate to that. I had to change and I didn't want to change, and it honestly sucked, but I'm so happy I did. And I'm sure you can agree with that. All right, then we have verse 19. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shewed unto me in the saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. So here Lot is being hella dramatic. He's like, dude, if I take a bigger step than the one I even want to, I might die. And it's like, yes, we feel that same way too. It's very over-consuming when we think of how big our purpose might be, how big and transformative change can be. So we ask for little like tiny breadcrumbs of change or like guidance to like make that first step. And that's essentially what Lot is doing here. He's like, just be nice to me, give me the teeniest little step and I'll do it. Verse 20, behold, now the city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. So here Lot is essentially reiterating, give me that little city and I'll take that step, but do not push me to the mountaintop, because I'm not ready to be pushed. But eventually he does go anyway. All right, verse 21. And he said unto him, see, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city for the which thou hast spoken. So the angel's like, or God is like, yeah, okay, we accept your request. We know you're doing the work, but like, honestly, sorry, fucking just step up and do it. Take the step, guy. It's not that hard. Like, it is hard, but also like, if you're God and you're looking at this guy named Lot that you created and you're like, bro, you got this. It's so close to you. Zor is so close. It's like this far away compared to like the mountains this far away. Just like go, just freaking do it. And then Lot's like, I don't know, I'm scared. That's what this is. Verse 22. Hast thee escaped there? For I cannot do anything till thou become there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. Literally just saying the same exact thing a couple of verses ago. But the point of reiterating the same thing, at least in the Bible or any spiritual book you read, in a mystic book like the Course in Miracles, or like, I don't know, maybe the Kabbalah, I haven't read that, but like just different mystic books, I'm sure will repeat the same thing over and over and over again, because we've been indoctrinated with false BS over and over and over again that keeps us small. We need to learn this stuff and embody it and make our brains full of it over and over and over again to rewire the programming that is false, right? The programming that we were born into that was lack now needs to become abundance. So I'm going to end the video there. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and I'm going to make a part 2 just because it's already long already, but then I'll cover the rest of the chapter in the following video. So I'll see you later. Bye.